Sometimes I forget that you're not supposed to make an ass of yourself at your place of employment. And I work as a freelance photographer, and several years ago, somebody hired me as I was kind of starting out to shoot their wedding in Panama. And not just their wedding, but they were gonna fly me down to basically document them and their friends for an entire week, going to the beaches and going to the rainforest and going to the canal. And I thought that this sounds like a great gig. But then my second thought was, don't make an ass of yourself and don't totally screw this up, because I was convinced that I would. So I set a very simple moral code and guideline for myself, and that was just to stay professional at all times. Don't get drunk on the job, and I told myself to keep a certain professional distance from the client. I said, you know, it's fine and encouraged to socialize with the client and their friends, but not to fraternize. And if you're asking what the distinction is, you're one step ahead of where I was when I got on a plane to Panama. And for the first 5 days, it was great. Everything went fine. I kept a little bit of distance, but had a lot of fun. And then the groom pulls me aside one day and says, Keith, tonight are the bachelor and bachelorette parties. We don't want any photos. Take the night off. You can do whatever you want, but the guys would love it if you came out with us. And I thought that was cool, and I felt like one of the cool kids. And so I'm like, yeah. And so we go to a steakhouse, and we go to a bar, and then we go to the strip club. And I'm not really a strip club guy, and anytime I say that, I feel like it sounds like I'm either lying or apologizing for it, and I'm not really sure why. I mean, and just to be clear, I don't have any like moral objection to boobs in my face, like on any level. That's fine, but I don't really want boobs in my face for transactional reasons while my friends watch, and so it's not my scene. So we get there and we walk in the door, and the first thing I see is like this guy reclining on like a Barca lounger, and there's a woman butt naked straddled over him, essentially like flossing her vagina on his nose. And I just hear this like squeaking squeegee sound in my head, like someone at a gas station. And I think, fuck, I'm gonna go hang out at the bar alone and just start throwing back vodka tonics. And I'm really happy when we leave and we move on to the disco. I'm like, okay, fine, yeah, let's have a fun night in Panama. Let my hair down. And we get there, and this place has this really low blue lighting, and for some reason, a bunch of the waitstaff are dressed up as mimes, which is a horrible idea for so many reasons, not least of which it makes it really difficult to confirm your drink order. But the mimes are giving out Jell-O shots in syringes, and this suddenly is a bucket list item for a few of us. And this is about the time that the bachelorette party joins us, and that's great. And among the bachelorettes is a woman named Daisy that I've had my eye on a couple of days. She's 5'8". She's got like blonde hair down to the bottom of her spine, and she's a human rights lawyer, which I think is awesome. And she's into yoga and marathons, and I think that's the kind of woman I would like to fraternize with later tonight. And so she's out dancing for a while, and I'm looking for my in that Calle Ocho song comes around. I know you want me, and so I'm like, yeah, this is really magic music. So I go out to the dance floor, and she's looking great out there, and I'm kind of dancing, but at this point, really, it looks more like just there's tectonic plates shifting under me, and I'm trying to stand up. And so I'm trying to get closer to her and dance a little closer, but she's swinging that blonde hair around like a mace. So like I'm trying to get the rhythm down, but it's like this. I've got this losing game of tetherball on the dance floor that's not working out. And it ends when she just decides to bend backwards and put her hands on the floor and put her stomach towards the sky in a bridge pose. And I'm just, okay, yeah. And she's only down there for a few seconds when she's kind of skittering around like a scared crab. And I realize that she can't get back up. And just to be clear, first and foremost, I'm a gentleman. So I'm gonna help her get back up. And I walk over and I stand, like her legs are on one side of me and her hands are on the other, like I'm gonna sacrifice her to the disco gods. And I crouch down, and I put one hand underneath her spine, her back, and one hand underneath her neck, and I lift her up. But I'm having a lot of trouble, and I'm trying some different angles or whatever, but there's at least 2 problems. One of which is she seems to be like 75% legs, so I can't get the leverage to make her stand up. But another problem is that, for some reason, I'm still trying to dance. In this intimate situation, it's really more like I'm humping her kidneys. So I'm like, dude, you gotta just commit to this and make it happen. And I don't know where I find the strength, but I as I'm fumbling, I finally kind of jerk her up and I get her standing up, and I feel like a hero. I feel like a cool dude. But that is not the look that I get from this woman Daisy. She looks at me with just this fire and anger in her eyes that I don't understand. I think, does she think I was trying to grope her while she was down there? And then I think, well, was I trying to grope her while she was down there? But before I can even complete that thought, she, without taking her eyes off of mine, she takes my hand and she slaps hers down into mine. And I look down, and I'm incredibly confused and mildly horrified because I'm holding this thin nest of long blonde hair in my hand. Because apparently, the music was so loud that I couldn't hear her shouting, "Keith, stop, 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 you're standing on my hair." And I'm thinking, there's no way. And I looked at, there's no way. There is no way. There's no, and I fast forward to, there's a way. And somehow I found it to stand on her hair and rip it out. And she says, "I'm gonna be a bald bridesmaid." And I think, that's not gonna look good in my photos. I mean, I can fix it in post, but it's never the same. And she's just so angry, and she hauls ass out of there. And I'm like the last person at the disco at this point, and I just feel like an asshole. And I skulk home alone, drunk, and I think, I knew this was gonna happen. I mean, not this specifically, because that would have taken a lot of forethought and planning. But I knew I was gonna do something really stupid and fuck this whole thing up, and I just think, I should have hidden behind the camera the way that people have told me that I do and just not engage anyone and let them do their thing. This is not my vacation. And I get back to the hotel and I just lie in bed and I write this apology to her and I stare at the ceiling and I pray for a late night nuclear holocaust. And when I get up in the morning and I see her in the lobby and I beeline to her, but before I can open my mouth, she cuts me off and she says, "Keith, I'm really sorry I totally flipped out last night. It's not that big of a deal. It wasn't that much of a hair. It was a great party. We were all drunk, so don't worry about it. We're all good." And it's amazing, like how reassured and how this just changes 180 degrees. And there's something that's really nice when you've got a little bit of a crush on somebody and they don't think you're an asshole. And so the rest of the week goes fine. The whole thing goes fine. The photos are great. And on the flight home, I remind myself that, dude, you're gonna do stupid shit sometimes and it may make a great story, but if anything else or nothing else, it's not the end of the world. But I end up still feeling a bit like I dodged a bullet. And to this day, I remind myself that, if you're in a professional situation or you're socializing with people you have a professional relationship with, it doesn't matter if you are technically off the clock. It's still really important that you don't stand on their hair.